Oral cancer in the UK is a very significant problem, and it is very much related to communities in which there is a lot of poverty. And so I live in Liverpool, which has some of the most poor areas in England, and along with that goes a very high rate of oral cancer and head and neck cancer in general. And our group has produced some data recently, and there's also been some national data produced which shows that in some areas of Liverpool the incidence of head and neck and oral cancer is very similar to areas in India, so it is very high. And along with that, unfortunately, goes a very high mortality. The mortality rate in patients from these very poor communities is very high, so we have a lot of work to do, both from a public health point of view and within the head and neck surgical service in treating these patients, and also for the research that we do, because it will be very impactful on our community if we can make a change for the community in Liverpool. So it is a big problem in the UK, it is a particular problem in my city. So I was really pleased to be invited to join the Liverpool Head and Neck Centre. And one of the attractions of that was that it is a truly multidisciplinary centre, which means that in terms of the problems that we have with head and neck cancer, we have principal investigators who are going to be working in the whole range of research areas that are required. Everything from public health to surgery, oncology, discovery science, and hopefully with all the pieces that allows us to put that jigsaw together to make it a comprehensive cancer treatment and research centre. So yeah, so we are trying our best on all the disciplines to be able to make an impact in our research. At this point we are approaching the preparations for the 6th edition of the WHO classification of tumours in the head and neck. So I have been involved in both the 4th and the 5th edition, and it's a very useful process because it focuses our ideas on what the defining the individual tumours and very clearly stating what their diagnostic features are, because sometimes, particularly with rare tumours, they're not very well defined in terms of clinical, radiographic and histological features. So the WHO classifications gives a focus to that, which I think is very useful. Of course, it's not an exact science. There is a lot of opinion which comes into this, which is why the WHO classifications are written by groups of expert authors, and I've been very pleased to be asked to be involved in some of the chapters in writing that. Head and neck cancer generally does not get the prominence or the importance that it should. I think even in the UK certainly we are ignored, because breast, colorectal, lung cancer, prostate cancer and so on are much higher in terms of the patient awareness of them, and also in the funding priorities of the funding bodies. So we still have, that's one of our main challenges, is to get funding bodies to take seriously the research in head and neck cancer that we need in order to make the big changes for our patients. But odontogenic tumours also suffers in the same way, because again it's even rarer. And to get funding bodies to take an interest in funding rare, very often benign tumours is a real challenge. But for me, the odontogenic tumours are biologically some of the most interesting tumours that I work with. I think they are fascinating tumours in terms of the way they grow and develop, and that the multiple lines of differentiation you get them. You understand what I mean in terms of the way that they grow and develop.